Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is Two-Way Tonight. Here are three things that make people loopy. Elections. Elections just make people loopy. They make people so loopy they call me 5 times a day or text me, Mark, who's going to win? As if I know who's going to win and I'm not telling. Elections, number one, make people loopy. Government shutdowns make people loopy. I don't know why. I understand it's like a big story, but it just makes people loopy. And again, all weekend, I just feel texts, emails, calls. Mark, when's the shutdown down? When's the shutdown going to end? Again, as if I know, as if I have some special knowledge. Oh, I didn't report it to anybody on any of my outlets, but let me tell you, my dentist or my cousin or my next door neighbor, I'll tell you when the shutdown's going to end. And then what's the third thing that makes people loopy? It turns out Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, contretemps. Those three things make people loopy individually. And then imagine the stars and moons align, all three happening right now. So this is a lot of loopiness. And I'm doing my best to not succumb to loopiness. So here's what we're going to do on today's episode. Luckily, we have the three least loopy guests we ever book. It's just a coincidence. News, loopy. Guess, unloopy. Let's see what happens when the worlds collide. But our guests will be here and we'll run through other stories besides those three. Full coverage of the Dodgers' victory. No, we're not covering that. Full coverage of the government shutdown, the mayoral race, Virginia, New Jersey, Proposition 50, and full coverage of Ben Shapiro. He devoted his entire episode today to going after Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes. I don't understand. We talked about this in the morning meeting. Why is all of a sudden members of MAGA saying no more Nick Fuentes, no more? He can have dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump, and that's not a cause for great outrage on the right. But all of a sudden, Tucker lets him come on the show, and he's nice to him. And now, and just to be clear, I'm not here to defend Nick Fuentes. I'm not. And in fact, my point is, and some people have misunderstood my point because I'm not making it well because I'm in a loopy environment. I'm not saying why are Ted Cruz and others going after Nick Fuentes and Tucker? How could they? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, why is it happening now? I don't understand what's happened new. That's my point. Anyway, you probably want to know who our great guests are. Well, I'll tell you. Lydia Moynihan, New York Post, who, along with me and others at the Post and Two-Way, are hosting election coverage tomorrow night at 8 Eastern Time. More on that in a minute. Correspondent for the New York Post, Lydia Moynihan. Steve Elmendorf, Democratic strategist. Matt Gorman, Republican strategist. Best in the business. All three of them best in the business. And as I said previously, not loopy. Now imagine if any of them come on in just a moment and act loopy, how embarrassing that would be for me. So hopefully none of them will succumb to the loopy environment in which we're in. After the three of us kick things around, then it'll be an opportunity for you as part of the Two-Way custom and tradition to be part of the conversation. So if you'd like to be part of the conversation, you're here on the Two-Way platform, please raise your hand. If you're trying to message me, Mark, I want to tell you something. Don't put it in the chat. I do not read the chat. It is true I glance at it occasionally, but it's so occasionally that unless you just constantly message, chances are I'll miss it. And if you're watching on YouTube or X, you can put anything you want in the chat except no smack. Firm policy, no smack in the chat. Greetings, salutations, well wishes, things like, well, that's a good point, or I hadn't considered that, or the person who just spoke is someone I disagree with, but it was good to hear a different point of view. None of that is smack. Put that in the chat to your heart's content. Thank you for your attention to that matter. Not that long ago, President Trump did what I thought he was going to do over the weekend, which is he explicitly said, vote for Cuomo. The Cuomo supporters don't love this because being the Trump candidate in New York City, I can't think of a fun metaphor right off the top of my head, but you get the point. But I believe that if Cuomo has a chance in hell, a snowball's chance in Coney Island in August, it's that Curtis Sliwa's vote drops down below 10. If Sliwa gets less than 10% of the vote, I believe Cuomo can win. So saying to people, vote for Cuomo, not for Sliwa, not for Mamdani, Trump's got some sway. So there'll be a lot of stuff about this. Is Mamdani right now back on MSNBC? Is that live? Am I looking at Mamdani live on MSNBC? Yeah, take that. I'll take that for a second. Let's take the timbre of his voice. Did he get a haircut? Did he just get a haircut?
Calling you. He says you're impressive to watch. Can you tell us what you talked about? And do you want his endorsement?
You know, I appreciated that conversation with the president. I appreciated his thoughts that he shared about our campaign. And I also shared with him that when I was facing the bigoted and racist
Did he get a haircut?
attacks,
Someone tell me.
have amplified
Put that in
over
the
last
chat. Did he
few
get a
weeks,
haircut?
that I looked to his State of the Union,
Didn't his hair look
a sort of
shorter?
a more perfect union address.
You can tell
as an
I'm really into
inspiration
the
for how to
substance.
rise
Yes, okay,
above
his hair's
the
shorter. Thank
24-hour
you.
news cycle
Do I need to get a
of our
haircut
electoral
before election
campaign
day?
and speak
I feel like
to
I
the
do.
soul
All right,
of the
we'll
politics of
monitor
our
that.
city
We
and our
can't
country.
just
And I really appreciate
make our
the model
show
that he presented.
Ari Melber's show. But anyway, Mamdani back on MSNBC. All right, quick word from a sponsor, then our guests, then the three big stories and some other stuff, and then your questions. Thank you for being here. Cozy Earth, our longtime sponsor, a little present for everybody. A Black Friday early sale. Right now, you can use my promo code MARK at cozyearth.com for 40% off. These deals won't last, so start your holiday shopping today. 40% off. It's not 50%, but it's a lot off. Bamboo sheets, bubble cuddle blanket, 40% off. The great pants I've always told you you need to buy. I'm wearing them currently, 40% off. Everything right now, you can use my code two-way on top of their site-wide sale, giving you up to 40% off in savings. Right now, wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com, use the promo code MARK, and get 40% off. 40% off. There's a sale on the site, but if you use the promo code, it jumps up to 40% off. Go to cozyearth.com. Promo code MARK, 40% off. Thank you for your attention to that matter. All right. I can't do any more of this by myself, obviously. So let's bring in our guests, and they'll explain it all to you, and they promise not to be loopy. Here's Ms. Moynihan. Lydia, welcome in. Thank you for joining.
Glad to be here.
Let's
high bar.
not be loopy.
I don't know. I can be a little loopy at times.
Yeah, I said it. So
Say-
can Steve Elmendorf. He can be loopy too, but he's pledged to set a good example. Steve, unmute. Welcome in.
Okay, I'm on mute.
All right, Steve, are you loopy?
I am not loopy.
You're not loopy. All right, Matt Gorman. Matt Gorman's a little bit serious, except when it comes to pets. Then he's truly loopy. Matt, welcome. Thanks to all three of you for joining. I'm a little torn about where to start. So let's start with, well, I think we got to start with Donald Trump's Truth Social post. Here we go. Number 6, please. Not that long ago, the president weighed in again on the New York City mayor's race. He did over the weekend to 60 Minutes, saying, I hate Cuomo, hate Mamdani, but I'm paraphrasing, but I hate Mamdani most of all. Here he says, if communist candidate Zohran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it is highly unlikely that I'll be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home because of the fact that as a communist, this one great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send as president good money after bad. It is my obligation to run the nation, and it is my strong, next page, connection to New York City, that New York City will be a complete and total economic, it's his conviction, that New York City will be a complete and total economic social disaster should Mamdani win. His principles have been tested for over 1,000 years, and never once have they been successful. I would much rather see a Democrat who has had a record of success win than a communist with no experience and a record of complete and total failure. He was nothing as an assemblyman, ranked at the bottom of his class, and as mayor, potentially, again, the greatest city in the world. He has no chance to bring it back to its former glory. We must also remember this. A vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not. Lydia, if you were Team Cuomo, would you be pleased about this late Truth Social post on election eve?
My understanding is they're not mad. And I actually feel like Trump is not necessarily known for nuance, but I think in 60 Minutes, and even in this, he kind of threaded the needle because it wasn't like a ringing endorsement of Cuomo. It wasn't like, oh, he's my guy. We're so close. I love him. It was a very begrudging endorsement. So I don't think anyone who's on the bubble, who's maybe a moderate, who's not sure about Cuomo, would be swayed away from voting for him. And even, in 60 Minutes, he's like, oh, well, Cuomo's a Democrat and a bad guy, but he's better than a communist. So I don't think it's going to have an impact on anyone who's sort of in the center, not sure what to do. But I do think it's going to move the needle for Republicans who are very loyal to the president. And that is, when you look at the polling, obviously, that's the ground, as you mentioned earlier, that Cuomo needs to gain. He needs to get that 10 to 20%, however much Sliwa ends up getting. He needs to get those folks to vote for him. So I think, if anything, it will be positive.
Matt Gorman, is this good for Cuomo or bad?
I think it's not. I don't think it's great for Cuomo. I think both Mamdani and Trump benefit by elevating the other, and so it does everybody a service there. So look, Cuomo's had struggling to get traction. I am of the camp. I think Mamdani's going to overperform tomorrow, meaning I think he's going to get over 50%. So I am not Cuomo's the time for Hail Marys for Cuomo was a month ago. Not tonight.
Steve,
I agree 1000% with Matt. I think Mamdani's going to overperform tomorrow. I think that having Donald Trump endorse you in, deep blue Democratic New York is never helpful. I think having Elon Musk endorse you earlier today is also not helpful. So I think it's this race is going to be over, and it's going to be over early.
so you think also he'll break 50%?
Yes.
Okay. Here's an analyst of New York City. Anybody know where Steve Bannon lived? Steve Bannon, do you know where he lived when he briefly was running the Trump campaign? Anybody know?
No.
He lived, say again?
Trump Tower?
No, he didn't live in Trump Tower. He lived just south of Bryant Park, and he would walk up 6th Avenue to or 5th Avenue rather. He'd walk up 5th Avenue to Trump Tower every day and think about what he was going to do that day. And I want to do a play that's just Bannon's walks every day and just like what he's thinking. It'd be a short play. Here's Steve Bannon today talking number 10, talking about the New York City mayor's race.
On the great thoughts. Think Mamdani and that crowd are interested in your great thoughts? You think you're going to debate them? You think you're going to debate them? Chatham House rules, is that what you're going to do? Is this what we're going to do, have a debate? National Review is going to have a special issue on the debating Mamdani. They are Bolsheviks. They're Marxist. They're Marxist jihadists. The Red-Green Alliance. What Raheem Kassam and what Trevor Loudon and Frank Gaffney and people said for years and were laughed and mocked at. And when they called out Sadiq Khan, this is going to be, and you guys are racist, you're nativists, you're xenophobes, all of it. Check London out. How's that working out? How's it working out for the stabbing victims? Working out good over there? That good? They got control of it there. They're going to debate that out. Let's go to Oxford and have a debating union and debate the topics. It's not a debate. They're not looking for a debate. They could care less about your ideas. They've already thought about them and they've rejected them, okay? Full rejection. Debate that. They're not interested. They're interested in power and control. And for everybody out there concerned, well, this is going to be quite interesting. This is going to be great because, he's a socialist and eventually going to run. He's not a socialist. He's a Marxist. He's a Bolshevik. He's a Bolshevik, and they play by Bolshevik tactics. The Working Family Party and the DSA are not, they are Bolsheviks, and they play smash mouth. And once they get their hands on the apparatus of the New York government, your city government, the global financial capital, you're going to have to take a trenching tool and get it off.
All right. I want to ask you guys two more questions about the mayor's race. First, 5 people today, 5 Cuomo supporters said to me today, Cuomo can't win. And they all had the same reason. His name on the ballot is like really far down. It's like off to the side. It's very hard to find. Mamdani's at the top with like a flashing neon sign. Mamdani. Cuomo's way down. Steve, how big these are all amateurs. Is that a big problem for a campaign if somebody's name is way far down the ballot?
No, I think if somebody shows up at the polling place with the intention to vote for somebody, they generally find them.
That's what I said. I'm like, you go to vote for Cuomo. It's not like hidden. It's like behind it's not an advent calendar. It's right. You have to flip anything. Matt, do you agree with Steve?
I mean, I'm haunted by the Florida 2000 butterfly ballot. So if we have some Pat Buchanan votes, maybe we'll know.
Yeah.
But I think I've seen a version of this ballot. It's not awful. It's not ideal. But that's what happens when you lose a damn primary. I don't really feel bad for you.
Right. Lydia, have you heard this from other people?
I actually voted early voting this weekend, And I will say, I mean, yeah, not only is Zoran Mamdani on the ballot at the tippy top, he's also up there twice because he's a working family, and so his name
Right.
is. You have more options to choose from.
Right. You can't
I
miss it.
I think if there's somebody kind of on the edges, maybe they won't be able to find it. Cuomo actually has now in campaign videos and certain ads basically tried to point out where exactly his name is on the ballot. But I think at the margin, it's not great for him. But I'm with you where I think if somebody wants to vote for him, they'll figure it out.
All right, last question. I've said before, I'm not a political reporter. I'm not even a government reporter. I'm a reporter who covers America. And political reporters are like a lot of political operatives, totally uninterested in governance. It makes me mental. I once asked a New York Daily News reporter when Michael Bloomberg was first running for mayor, do you think he'd be a good mayor? And I might as well have asked the guy, do you think he'd be a good point guard for the Knicks? Did not compute. So here's my question for each of you, starting with Matt. What if Mondami wins, as you guys expect him to? What kind of mayor do you think he'll be?
I think that all depends on the city council. Look, that was where when Adams took office too. They're like, oh, Adams can do all these great things. I'm like, but the city council is what the city council is. Like, it's like the same here in DC. Bowser can be Bowser, but if you have six uber liberals in the city council, it's going to go in a certain direction. So candidly, I think I'm curious if Mamdani is going to be the break on the city council. Now they have a mayor who can do all this great stuff, or if he's going to push them. That's I think where it's going to be at.
Lydia, do you think he'll be a good mayor, or just like binary, good mayor, bad mayor?
Well, I would say the latter, but it's funny. I mean, even SNL sort of acknowledged this weekend in their cold open where they had the debate between the three candidates that, Mamdani said he's like, oh, can I do all of these things that I'm saying? The answer is no. That's basically the paraphrase of their joke that they made. And so I do think that once he gets in there, one, he's not really sure what he's getting into because he didn't really even show up to vote in the assembly. And two, I mean, I think it's so bureaucratic, it's going to be tough to really get much of anything done. And I think, again, the mayor doesn't have as much power as maybe Mamdani or others think that he does.
Steve, I'll ask it to you in a different way. His main issue is making the city more affordable. What do you think the chances are that he'll make the city more affordable for working class people?
I think it's positive. I think he'll be a good mayor. I think the guy is an inspirational communicator. He's clearly a very talented politician. He has beaten the entire establishment to get there. I think he knows that in order to be successful, he's going to have to work with the governor. He's going to have to work with the city council and the legislature. He clearly has a lot of talent and a lot of inspirational communication skills, and I think he has potential to be a very good mayor. And he's not a Bolshevik. He's not a communist. He's a Democrat. And he's a liberal Democrat, just like a lot of other people are in a city that is liberal. And I think he will work with the governor to get stuff done.
Do you think he will surprise people, Steve, in how pragmatic he is as mayor
I think
if he
he's
wins?
surprised people so far. I think since the primary, he's surprised people in his ability to work with a whole bunch of people. I think his commitment to keep the police commissioner was a very strong signal. I think he'll have some very, very capable people around him. We have survived in New York with mayors who were very. Bill De Blasio is as much a socialist as Mondami, and the city got through 8 years for him. People did not flee, the economy did not crash, and I think with Mondami, people are over-indexing on the problems this could be, and under-indexing on his abilities, which I think have outperformed anything anybody expected.
All right, I mostly agree. And every time I say that, people say, "Oh,
I
you're
did not start out as a Mondami supporter.
Yeah, no, I know.
Started out as a Cuomo supporter.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, let's talk about the shutdown. Made no real sign of progress today, and in fact, something that's good for people who need SNAP, but probably bad for a settlement because it takes pressure off. Number one, please. Trump administration, following a judge's order, announced that they would try to use the reserve funds to pay half. This is a Wall Street Journal or Washington Post headline. Trump administration says it is paying out half of November's SNAP benefits. Not really clear how long this money will last or what this means, but it does take some of the political pressure off. Here's a couple of Capitol Hill titans. Here's Speaker Johnson responding. Number two, please.
In these elections, Maybe after tomorrow, they'll come to their common senses again and do the right thing. We certainly pray that is true, and Republicans will be on the job every single day, serving our constituents, helping guide them through the chaos that the Democrat shutdown has created, and praying that they do the right thing and stop making the American people suffer because of this nonsense. Thank you.
All right, here is Chuck Schumer from the other side. You need to know what number that is, probably. Number 4, please.
So, Mr. President, last Friday, the court spoke loudly. They spoke clearly. Donald Trump cannot block SNAP benefits and treat hungry Americans as political pawns. The stories from the weekend were shameful, sickening. People overwhelming food banks, handing out groceries in lieu of Halloween candy, teachers paying out of pocket to give their students extra food. Across America, appalling scenes were seen of people worried they wouldn't be able to feed their families and even themselves. This is appalling, and the courts did the right thing to step in to follow the law. But the Trump administration still refuses to fully comply. A few hours ago, the administration announced that it will provide only partial SNAP benefits to 42 million Americans facing food insecurity, even though the courts affirmed that the USDA has the transfer authority to ensure everyone can receive full benefits. Everyone can get full benefits. The only person standing in the way is Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
All right, you can cut out of this. Waiting to play you a Nancy Pelosi soundbite, which Steve in particular will like. But while we do, I'll read you a few updates on what I continue to believe is the only path visible at this point to out of the shutdown, which is bipartisan Senate deal. Here's Susan Collins. Quote, there have been a lot of conversations on both sides of the aisle and across the chambers, and I do believe that we're finally making progress. It's too soon to declare this nightmare of a shutdown is over, but I'm very cautiously hopeful it could be resolved this week. Collins says her optimism, this is Laura Weiss is reporting, her optimism is because talks have gotten more specific and she believes Democrats waiting until after tomorrow's elections to make a deal. Collins say much more, but she says she wants the CR to run until December 19th. Governor Peters of Michigan, or Senator Peters of Michigan, says senators involved in the bipartisan talks to end the shutdown met in person here at the Capitol earlier today. This is Andrew DeSiderio of Punchbowl. Peters says, quote, progress being made, but he wouldn't say much more. Now, Steve, Nancy Pelosi, is she more about pouring Neosporin or gasoline right at this point in her career?
Well, she's not a member of the leadership anymore, so I don't
Exactly. Not a member of the leadership, and rumors that she's about to, after the election, going to announce her retirement. So here is perhaps retiring, but never retiring, Nancy Pelosi.
It's a vile creature. The worst
Talking
thing
about
on
Trump.
the face of the earth. But
Vile
anyway,
creature.
You
Worst
think
thing
he's
on
the
the face
worst
of the
thing
earth.
on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah. I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the president of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives. He's chilled.
All right, vile thing, worst thing on earth. Lydia, helpful, unhelpful? Thoughts?
Really just bridging the gap, toning down the rhetoric, bringing people together. Yeah, people get a lot more set in their ways in their old age, and that seems to be what's happening here. I think she's happy just to burn it all down. And ultimately, she's not going to bear any responsibility for it because, she's not.
Yeah, she's not. Matt, Steve, Peters, Collins seem hopeful, optimistic, while Schumer's and the speaker less so. Matt, are we headed towards a settlement, do you think?
I think we are. I really couldn't give a crap what Nancy Pelosi says. I think she's, as of now, when she left the speaker's office, she became irrelevant. And when Trump got office, she was more irrelevant. So I don't really care as much now. I think you're right. I think the general sense here is that after the election, there's a path to get this wound down. The Democrats will likely have a good night tomorrow. They can proclaim victory to the base. It was always how they do that K-turn in a tight hallway of backing up here. And I think that can give Schumer a decent off-ramp. Look, the left will still be pissed, I feel like, but how do you sell it to the left, but also convince Republicans he didn't give anything up?
Steve, there seem to be enough Democrats, if you take the 3 who voted to end the shutdown and the ones who are talking to Republicans, there seem to be 8 or more. Are you bullish on this getting solved relatively soon? Keeping in mind I have a flight next Monday.
Well, I think there's a timing problem in that they have to resolve what Senator Thune said today. If they resolve it, they have to change the date of the CR, which means the House has to come back. So I don't think it's going to get resolved this week. I think it could be some outlines of a deal this week and then voted on through next week. And you also have Veterans Day. But, Mark, I think the fundamental problem with this shutdown, and I was in government for 2 shutdowns under President Clinton, is that people aren't here of both parties, both sides. I think, when we had shutdowns before, everybody was here. The president was here. There was a sense of crisis that there was a problem that needed to be solved. And the way to solve the problem was for everybody to talk. And I think the fact that the Senate for 4 weeks in a row has left on Thursday afternoon and come back Tuesday morning, that the House has gone completely, that Trump went off on a foreign trip, they all bear responsibility for the fact that if you believe that we should keep the government open, you all should be here trying to figure out how to get it done. And I think until you get everybody back, it's going to be hard to get it reopened.
All right. Lydia needs to leave shortly, but before she does, I want her view of the first partner of California at a rally for Prop 50, critiquing the President of the United States. Number 15, please.
And I will tell you right now, I will not raise my children to think Donald Trump is an acceptable American leader. Nor that he is what the leader of our great country should behave like. Yes. I won't raise them to think his terror enables his power and that his greed equals success. He is the exact opposite of what real strength looks like. So in our house, Gavin and I will continue to teach our kids what strength really looks like. If you see someone sitting alone at a table, you invite them to your table. If you see someone being bullied, you speak up and ask an adult for help. And you always, always tell the truth. Maybe if Donald Trump's parents had taught him any of these lessons, we wouldn't be in this mess. On the contrary, Trump is enriching his immediate family and cronies. He is stripping away our rights and our democracy. When he knows he's going to lose, he cheats. When the game isn't rigged for him, he rigs it himself. Sometimes no is a full sentence. Trust me. That's right. But Donald Trump's never accepted no for an answer. He's a con artist, a predator, a malignant narcissist, in chief, and the worst president in our nation's history.
Lydia, I'll take your review. What do you think of that? It just is like political performance.
She has the look. They look like a good couple. It's obviously incredibly ironic that she's lambasting Donald Trump, and lately her husband has been trying to emulate his very approach that she's now saying she hates. A little interesting. And again, many of the accusations she's leveling against Donald Trump could be leveled against her husband as well. But look, she's clearly very articulate and good looking. And I think the more that Gavin deploys her, and the less he deploys himself, I think he'll do well. So he certainly has an asset in his wife.
All right. Before the guys weigh in on this, before you have to go, tell everybody about our election night coverage tomorrow, please.
Yes. Starting at 8 p.m., we are going to be live at the New York Post studios covering, obviously, the mayoral elections. We'll have some sort of chatter as the polls are closing, which close at 9. But then we're also going to be paying close attention to the other races, obviously gubernatorial races in New Jersey, Virginia. We'll see what happens with Jay Jones. We'll see what happens in Minneapolis. There's a lot of really interesting elections this year for an off year. So we'll have all of the analysis then.
Beautiful. So again, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, New York Post, two-way teaming up for election coverage like no other. Join us. We'll be aggregating the coverage from all over the place as we do on election nights, and of course, involving you in the conversation. So please go to twoway.tv to sign up to join Ricky and Lydia and me and our colleagues Lydia, I'll see you tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, Steve, what did you think of the first partner of California?
I think we should, on both sides, we should have less name calling. The only part of it, of what she said I agree with at the beginning was that he does not do model behavior that you would want your children to follow.
Right.
I've never liked the name calling the president does. I don't like the language he uses. I don't like the memes that are dirty he posts, and that's not something that children should follow. I don't think I think she was a little over the top there in her language. And if we could, I'm old fashioned. If we could if you watched Barack Obama this weekend, which I did, speak in New Jersey and Virginia, he didn't do name calling. He was funny. He was progressive. He gave great speeches, and that's the kind of thing we should have, not calling people names.
Matt Gorman, even if I thought you were a malignant narcissist, and I don't, I wouldn't call you that. What did you think? Would that strike fear in the hearts of Gavin Newsom's rivals that it's 2 for the price of 1?
As opposed to the benign narcissist.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look, Gavin is going to have to deal with a lot of stuff on the debate stage. I mean, look, his vulnerabilities are well known. And look, I mean, what I thought was notable yesterday was he was on Meet the Press defending Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, while the loyalty is a nice trait in theory, like he's gonna have someone, at least one or probably multiple candidates, go after him on debate stage or on the campaign trail for him defending Joe Biden. So look, it's nice having Jennifer Newsom out there. She in a former life was an actress, so that I mean that as a political compliment. It means you can deliver a message, you know how to land a line. That's an asset, not necessarily a knock. But Gavin's gonna have to fight this himself, and he doesn't have a good answer on why he wants to be president, what the deal with Joe Biden was. Jamar, I'll quote him yesterday. He put it well. He wants to talk about today, meaning the California Prop 50, not yesterday, and he doesn't want to talk about tomorrow either.
Right. All right. I want to ask you both about briefly, and then we're going to go to your questions. So please raise your hands if you're here on the platform. I want to ask you about this Fuentes Tucker Carlson thing, where the Wall Street Journal has an editorial in tomorrow's paper posted online now, extremely scathing about the head of the Heritage Foundation, anyone else who hasn't spoken up aggressively against Fuentes and Tucker's friendly interview with him. What would the equivalent be, Steve, in the Democratic Party? Maybe Matt's better to answer, but what would be the equivalent of Fuentes and Tucker having this kind of very public, very intense fight? Well, who would that be?
Nobody comes to mind. I mean,
yes, you got any, Matt? What would the equivalent be?
No, I mean
Rachel Maddow against
I would say like a Mehdi Hassan would be the Tucker person.
Yeah,
I don't know who that.
Maybe what's the guy's name who writes for the New York Times? New York Times columnist, liberal guy. Come on, it's got the same first name as the guy who thinks he knows about polling. Come on, guys.
Ezra Klein, no.
Huh? Ezra Klein versus Mehdi Hassan. Would that be equivalent?
No, because here's the thing about Fuentes. Like he really it would be like this is a weird one, but like Mehdi Hassan versus Farrakhan. Because like Fuentes
versus
really,
Farrakhan.
Because Fuentes really isn't platform. Like Fuentes isn't going on actual cable shows, right? Hassan kind of used to, but not really anymore. Right. He used to be more in present company.
All right. So again, strange thing to me. I continue to express a lack of understanding of why this is happening now, because there ain't nothing new about this. Tucker putting Fuentes on is like par for what's been happening in parts of MAGA. So here is Ben Shapiro, who I don't know him. I don't know if I know him at all. I don't certainly know him well, but I got to give the guy props for what's the right word? His moral certainty, his what's the word? He's standing up for what he believes in, and he's willing to criticize within the movement. Here's Ben Shapiro, number 13, please.
Answer is no. No to the Groypers. No to their publicists like Tucker Carlson. No to those who champion them. No to demoralization. No to bigotry and anti-meritocratic horse shit. No to anti-Americanism. No. This is our country. This is our party. And this is our conservative movement. And I will not stand by while it is handed over to those who betray the most fundamental principles I have spent my entire life defending and advocating. That is a path to defeat and a path to moral oblivion. I reject it because if we lose the right, we will lose to the left. And either way, we'll lose the country. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
All right. Now, I like to joke about everything, even super serious stuff, because it's just my way. Here is Fuentes' response, which I find hilarious. I know people aren't going to like my saying that, but here, the guy's got a good sense of humor. He may think Hitler's a good idea, but here's number 14. This is how Fuentes responds to Ben spending his entire show hitting Fuentes and Tucker on social media here. No to Ben Shapiro, no to the neocons, no to dual citizens, no to Benjamin Netanyahu, no to cancel culture, no to genocide and ethnic cleansing, no to the Christ-hating Talmud, no to Greater Israel, no to our Jewish oligarchy. America first, America forever. Matt Gorman, what is happening here? Why is this suddenly a big fight?
I will say this. This is the iceberg that has emerged from a sea that, look, both parties have this, but I will say, the younger conservatives, especially college age ones, they do not have, I think, the same historical knowledge or attachment to Israel that a lot of older Republicans, but even older generations do. I feel like the divide might be generational, not necessarily by party. And both parties are dealing with that. If you are younger, you are not as predisposed to support Israel. And I think you're seeing this play out in various forms, including.
But why is it so emotional right now?
Because one of the big takeaways from JD Vance's Ole Miss event, when he went down there to do the Charlie Kirk thing, was I was talking to somebody who was there, and he said, and one of the first questions was about the influence of Israel and American politics and quote unquote AIPAC money and this and that, right? And he said, I was watching the crowd when this happened, and it was almost like a taboo had been broken. And people are elbowing each other like, yeah. And again, it's Ole Miss. It's a Southern Baptist school where 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that would be as much of a fan of Zionism as they come. But it's a cultural and a generational divide now.
Heritage, this is from the New York Post. Heritage Foundation staff or anonymous staffer talking with some of our interns. I think there are a growing number of them who actually agree with the views Fuentes espoused. Steve, do you understand this? This is in the other side of the aisle, but do you understand what's going on, or are you going to just say you don't get it because
I don't follow any of these people. I don't read any of these people. It's just not my world. I just, I think I read the Wall Street Journal editorial page, and I don't always agree with it, but they're completely right on this. And I do think there are people, unfortunately, we've gotten to this stage where there's people who start to think that anything is acceptable. That it's just, people on the far right or people on the far left. It's okay. It's not okay. There's a bunch of things that people say that are not okay. And people in authority, people in the media, people everywhere should say this is not acceptable. Talking about Adolf Hitler is not, in a positive way, is not acceptable.
Matt, the President Trump has navigated this for a decade.
Yeah,
he has. I mean, he'll retweet the frog, and I mean he'll just do anything, and he just doesn't seem to pay a price. 41 2 out of 3 elections, dog whistling like symphony. Can JD Vance do the same thing, or is this going to be the vice that crushes him?
I mean, look, it's something they have to certainly look at. But I will point out, when did Trump have dinner with Fuentes? Like early 22, I think it was something along those.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That was one of the really.
I think it was in December. It's either December 21 or
21, maybe. And look, Trump was he wasn't back fully yet, right? He didn't. I don't think he announced yet. He was still kind of in that wilderness. People weren't sure. But there was a huge outcry on the right, and I believe even people that were working for him at the time.
Not like this though.
No. But what I'm saying is, though, the Fuentes stuff gets our guys very willing to take him on, at least like the apparatus in a way that.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, quick word from a sponsor, then to your questions. Please raise your hand if you want in the conversation. A word from our friends at takelean.com. Don't go with fad diets, juice cleanses, cabbage soup, raw food, etc. If you want to lose weight the right way, not weight cycling, where what a lot of Americans do, you gain and then you lose it back again, go with something that is doctor created. The folks at takelean.com have an oral supplement, not a GLP-1 injectable, and it will help you maintain healthy blood sugar, control appetite and cravings, and burn fat by converting it to energy. If you want to lose weight in a meaningful way, go to takelean.com, use the code 2WAY for 20% off your full order. This is a way to lose weight, again, in a steady, consistent way rather than cycling back and forth. Again, go to takelean.com, use the promo code 2WAY for 20% off your order. Most people need help in losing weight, and this is a great way to do it. So again, go to takelean.com, use the promo code 2WAY for 20% off your order. All right, Lars, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Steve and for Matt. Thank you for being part of Two Way.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm from New York City originally. I still live here now. I graduated college recently. So I'm actually voting tomorrow, and I had a question about the mayor's race, but I also wanted to add something about the sort of Nick Fuentes conversation. I'm not like personally a fan myself, but you know, I'm kind of part of the demographic, I guess, that a lot of people are talking about right now. And I think for a lot of people my age, I've heard this from people I know and sort of just around on social media. Like, I don't necessarily think it's people don't support Israel or that. I think a lot of people would theoretically support Israel with, arms or in a war or something. But I just think that there's so much kind of talk about conspiracy theories and things online that, there's sort of this quiet kind of belief in a lot of people that Israel kind of controls portions of our politics. So I think that people kind of it materializes in things like Nick Fuentes, and it's sort of, I guess, kind of America first in a way, and that's just sort of how it materializes. But I don't necessarily think it's just about kind of anti-Israel or stuff that kind of has happened of late.
Lars, hold on for 1 second.
Yeah.
I want to give Matt and Steve a chance to ask you questions if they'd like. Matt.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no. So let me ask you this: it sounds almost like you're saying that, like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to kind of clarify the point. So would you kind of say, like, hey, like, folks in my generation, we kind of view Israel like we would in any other country, kind of like Germany or France, or they're just a country kind of we deal with, and that's the relationship we should have with them? Do you feel like, hey, like, we kind of need to be kind of closer to them because of the region of this? I'm just kind of trying to understand.
Yeah, I think that's the first way you describe it is pretty spot on. I think also Steve made a point where, or it might have been you, Matt, but a lot of people my age aren't super big on history, so they wouldn't necessarily know the history of the region, the history of sort of, World War II and post World War II. So I think a lot of people kind of see Israel just like another country. And then, also growing up kind of, I'm 22 right now, and from when I was 14, I had basically full access to YouTube, to Instagram, to Vine, to all these social media sites. And there's just so many conspiracy theories about, and then Epstein was another big kind of cultural moment where that was really brought to the forefront again. But, there's all these conspiracy theories about how industries are controlled and, politicians and stuff and Mossad. And I think a lot of people sort of, with the view that it's just kind of another country, they see something like that. And that's kind of what I guess a lot of this is kind of coming out from.
Steve.
Well, I guess a comment. I think that people do make a mistake of any time you say something that is oppositional to the government of Israel or oppositional to the policies of Israel. There are some people who will immediately accuse you of being anti-Semitic, and that is not true. It was for a long time the only democracy in the region. There were a lot of historical reasons we supported it, supported the country. But there are many people of all generations now who think that the government's gone too far in one direction, and that there's a lot of reason to be critical of it. And just because you're critical of Israel does not mean you're anti-Semitic. However, there are a lot of people in this country, and Nick Fuentes seems to be one of them, who are anti-Semitic, and we should not give him an excuse for being anti-Semitic.
No, I agree with you. I guess sort of the point I was trying to make was that I don't think a lot of people see it that sort of deeply.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are just on social media, kind of their world be shaped by that.
Yeah. Lars, do you have friends who are followers and fans of Nick Fuentes?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Do you know what they like about him?
I think, again, it's not really that they grasp onto certain things, but it's sort of, I don't know. Because I don't want to associate it necessarily with like what we know as the American First Movement, but it's sort of that ideology where I think what's important to them would be that someone's kind of speaking about these issues with I guess sort of a voice that they haven't really heard before, and someone who's kind of unafraid to say little certain notions that people might have.
Lars, I want to ask you one more question and then let you ask your question about the mayor's race. Why do you think it is that Nick Fuentes has more appeal, apparently, to young men as opposed to young women?
I think, I don't know. I mean, I think most of it really is just that he's a little bit kind of too edgy for, I mean, this is kind of anecdotal, but for really a lot of girls, I think. I think also for guys, you know, I don't know if you guys know what like the typical liberal is on Instagram, but social media accounts like that, you know, have been really big. And he kind of, again, like when you're in high school and you're in college and you're kind of really edgy and you're, you know, it was 2018, you know, we would have to sit through these really long sort of presentations in schools about intersectionality and all this kind of stuff. So I think it was really, you know, having that kind of dichotomy of what you would see in class and kind of in the world around you, and then this sort of little escape online, I guess. That's not really how I see it, but I think that's how kind of a lot of.
Understood.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. Brilliant, Lars. Please ask thank you for sharing all that. And please go ahead and ask about what you wanted about the mayor's race.
So about the mayor's race, you know, to be really blunt, I'm really kind of upset at how the race is going. I was really hoping that Cuomo would win, and I plan on voting for Cuomo. And I think really what I'm wondering is kind of about national messaging, but also within the race. I think once people sort of did even a bare minimum of research about Mamdani or kind of saw videos or something, they should have dropped a lot of the messaging about how he's, you know, pro Hamas and communist and all these kind of personal attacks and sort of ad hominem things. Because even when I talk to people my age, a lot of the sort of hypocrisy lands, like the fact that he, you know, has these kind of globe-trotting parents and like a filmmaker mom and a professor dad and lives in a rent-stabilized apartment. And then like the wedding things, and maybe I read more about this stuff, so most people wouldn't know that. But when you make them aware of these things and also the policies, it resonates a lot. So I guess from a national perspective and then within the race, do you guys have sort of an opinion of what like the messaging to defeat the Mamdani, or maybe not defeat, but kind of counter it? And I guess from a Republican and Democrat side, I guess.
Yeah. Steve, what would have been the right message, a stronger message to beat him in this race?
Well, I think you had to start with having a credible opponent. And he had an opponent who was deeply flawed, who we discovered voters didn't like. And the longer he's been in the race, the less voters like him. And it's very hard to beat somebody who's incredibly likable, who's honest, who talks in a relatable way, who has a platform that's popular with a lot of people, when you're running against somebody who people don't like. It's just
what if it's point taken. Had there been a better vehicle, better messenger, what was the right message in this race to beat Mamdani?
Well, I think the right message was experience. Andrew tried that, but obviously, again, people didn't care because he was so unlikable. And I think the you know, a sort of better job of going through however many years of things he has said, which again they didn't do a very good job of in the
kind of incredible. Matt,
Mamdani, to his defense, and you know, he hasn't tried to hide anything. This is not a guy who's like, you know, saying he's not hiding who his parents are. He's not hiding where he's not parents. He's not hiding anything.
He was not straightforward in the debate when he was asked about some of the things he said. He's taken fuzzy positions when he's known he's politically vulnerable, I would argue. And I don't blame you for not watching all of it because you don't live here. But
I didn't see the second
debate. He was pretty evasive in the second debate. Matt, if there were a strong Republican in this race, even though the city is overwhelmingly Democratic, what would be the stronger Republican message against him?
I mean, well, look, the first thing you had to get this guy in the primary. Obviously, Cuomo didn't do that, right? So when all of a sudden he's on a rocket ship it's a lot harder, right? Ask Barack Obama in the general in '08, right? But you need somebody who has that Trump level of authenticity and to basically say that he's full of shit, and like you need to match his authenticity and interestingness with that on the other side. Like I think again, Mamdani, AOC, Trump, they're inherently interesting. Like if they're on mute and on TV, you're gonna unmute it because you're curious what they're gonna say. So to your point, Mark, when he starts wavering and walking back some of this stuff that he said in the primary or that he's been saying for the last 10 years, you gotta like not like a politician, not like Gavin Newsom would. You gotta kind of like Trump did in the debate against Hillary in a very blunt way, call it out.
Yeah.
And you gotta make him the calculating politician.
Yeah. Lars, how'd you find out about two-way?
So I've been watching for a long time. I started watching before the election. And I actually went on before the election and I asked a question that I wish I asked a better one. So I've been thinking about that since. I've been trying to get back on. So I'm glad I got a chance to, and I appreciate the time.
Great. Well, thank you. Grateful to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Really, really enjoyed having you on. I can tell, because I know the community, I can tell people really learned a lot. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Grateful. All right, one more quick message, then we'll get somebody else on. Last sponsor of the night is our friends at cornbreadhemp.com. Go to cornbreadhemp.com/two-way for 30% off. If life's been a little crazy lately, and as this episode proves, it's been crazy for many, one thing that helps many folks unwind is Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies. Looking for a natural way to relieve aches or discomfort for many people, this is a great solution. If you've tried other stuff and it hasn't worked, if you're looking for relaxation and relief, go to the website, cornbreadhemp.com/two-way. Use the code two-way at checkout, cornbreadhemp.com/two-way. Use the code at checkout for 30% off. It's formulated to relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. All products are third-party lab tested, USDA organic to ensure safety and purity. And as I said, these work for many. So if you're looking for some relief, some better sleep, go to cornbreadhemp.com/two-way. Use the code two-way for 30% off your first order. Blake, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Steve and for Matt. Got on mute, sir. One more time. Hit the button. No. All right. Keep trying. We'll come back to you if you figure it out. Let's go to Young. Young, welcome in. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
Hey, thank you for this discussion. And I got peaked. My interest peaked with the Ben Shapiro discussion, and I'm a huge Ben Shapiro fan. When I heard his dialogue, I was sort of disappointed with him because he's usually very surgical. I love his show because he was trying to bring down Tucker with Nick Fuentes, which I don't know much about. And I was thinking about this. I have two questions. One is, and this is my hypothesis, is that the Israel group, the pro-Israel group, it seems like they're sort of on the back end. They're on the heels, so they're basically aiming for an Achilles heel, which is Nick Fuentes, right? So, and that's the only thing I could think of why this is happening at this point. That's such a fierce tenor.
Because they're defensive.
Yes, yeah. Because the pro-Israel group is somewhat on the heels. They found a small weakness.
Yeah.
In the
Matt, what are your thoughts on that theory?
I don't know about that. Look, I will say this. I think the Nick Fuentes stuff and the Tucker stuff bubbled for a while. And I think that, again, the annoyance with Tucker, who kind of just is a contrarian for contrarian's sake, and that's probably putting it way too mildly, right? And Fuentes, who grasps for relevance, at least in mainstream, or somewhat mainstream ways. And so it bubbles up every now and then. But I think that's more that.
Steve?
On CNN right now, Mark, I just looked up at the screen. Ben Shapiro slams Tucker Carlson for Fuentes' interview. Look, some of these people are attention whores. I would put Tucker in that category. You know, we haven't. I haven't heard anybody talk about Tucker Carlson in a couple months, and all of a sudden he's like
Yeah.
the Chiron on CNN. He was on MSNBC earlier being talked about. So, you know, he lives to get clicks, he lives to get attention, and the way to get clicks and attention is to be outrageous and out there. And so I think a lot of this is frankly purely self aggrandizement in order to make more money.
And also real quick too, like, I mean, like coming back, what was it? When did he leave Fox? A couple years ago, right? Like let's say 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
No, it wasn't that long.
It wasn't that long. Okay. But I'm more ballpark when I know he was on Fox. 6 years ago, a Tucker monologue was a big freaking deal. Like as a Republican, you had to tune in. It went viral. If your boss got praised or targeted in a Tucker monologue, it was going to affect you guys for a while. And now he's doing whatever he does.
Okay.
Quick follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
Was that the best Game 7 you've seen last night?
Pretty close to it. It was very incredible. Thank you, sir. Grateful to have you on. Thank you for that. All right. Hold on. Just dealing with the source matter. All right. Another email. Another text. Let's see. Let me ask you this question. Go back to the shutdown. Steve, the Republicans keep saying that after the elections tomorrow, the Democrats will be willing to deal. I've never understood the connection there. Is there any
connection? They
There's
said
no
after
connection.
the King's rally.
Yeah, yeah. Matt, can you explain why Republicans keep saying that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that they need something to hang their hat on as a win, as an off ramp for this. Like Schumer does not have an off ramp right now. It's the best part.
But why does he have an off ramp if the Democrat
because they can say that
what election results would maximize the off ramp?
The fact that we won 2 governorships. We put, I'm channeling Schumer.
Yeah,
we won 2 goverships. We put them on the defense. That's all because we put them on
now we're going to cave.
And so now what we're going to do is, we now have assurance that they're going to negotiate in healthcare. We brought them to the table.
But Trump won't give them any assurance if they win the governorship.
To negotiate, they will. He did it last night in 60 Minutes.
Well, I know, but that didn't sway the Democrats.
They need a win. That's what I think. I mean, or what? Like we're going to go through this forever? Like
no, I think Senate Democrats will figure it out. I just don't see any election outcome, particularly the one that's most likely, which is Democrats win them both. It's like Zelensky. This has been my position, analysis, and joke the entire war. Zelensky will agree to a peace deal with Putin, except under 2 circumstances: when the war is going poorly, because he knows he'll have to make a weak deal because Putin will be on the offense, or when the war is going well, because then he's not going to make a deal when the war is going well. It's the same with the Democrats. I don't care what the election results are. They're not going to put them in the mood to cave to Donald Trump. If they do poorly, they'll feel like we can't give Trump another win. If they do well, they'll say, well, we just did well. Why should we be the ones to cave? I don't get it. I don't see it. I don't understand it. But that's because it's a loopy time. Gentlemen, always love having you both on. Very grateful to you. Matt Gorman, ladies and gentlemen. Matt, anything you want to plug?
No, I'll be in and around TVs and internets tomorrow for election night. And then no.
Steve, you got a favorite charity, website, anything?
Oh God, no. No favorite charity.
Steve?
I think you should go find your local food bank and give them money.
Yes, we've been pushing that, and we've done.
I did this weekend.
Yeah, this community's done great, and thank you for that. Thank you both for being on. Thank you all for watching. I'll be back 9 a.m. tomorrow with Sean and Dan for the morning meeting, and then again this program tomorrow night at 6, and then 8 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. Don't forget our special live coverage with the New York Post from the New York Post newsroom, starting at 8 p.m. We'll cover the races through the night with the people at the New York Post, myself, my 2-way colleagues, and you. So if you want to be part of the conversation and help us cover the night and give us your comments, ask your questions, go to twoway.tv, sign up to be part of it. You can also watch it on our website and YouTube channel, as well as the New York Post. Thank you all very much again. Thanks to Steve and Matt. Good night, everybody.